Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to Need for Speed Unbound. Now, I'm a little bit late to the party in the sense that I haven't really been doing many videos on Need for Speed Unbound itself. Now, this game, I've had it for just over a week at this point. I got the Palace Edition, so I got it all early access and all that good stuff. And I'm actually really enjoying it. Now, like I said though, I haven't had the time to do a full review. Sometimes things come up in life and you can't quite, stay on track and stay on schedule. So with my update 1.26 coverage of Gran Turismo 7 being out the way and done for, I've now turned my focus towards Need for Speed Unbound to try and finally get some time put into it and kind of, figure out where the games are, if it's really for me, and is it really a return to form for Need for Speed itself. So for the last week or so, I've been slowly working my way through the story mode, as well as doing a bit of multiplayer, which I'll do a separate kind of impressions on probably tomorrow. So I'm going to just do the story mode first and foremost. I'm going to kind of do it up to the point where you've done your first kind of qualifier event. I feel like at that point you've kind of got a decent taste for the game, and then you kind of know what to really kind of expect. Obviously it's going to get a lot quicker, a lot more kind of different machines and different kind of AI races and such as you kind of get into the game, and it'll be a whole different kind of flavor. But I feel kind of when you've got to that first qualifier, you've got a kind of first-hand experience of what this game's about, how it feels, how it plays, how it looks and such. So that's where I'm going to be reviewing up to. I am a bit further currently, but I'm going to kind of give you my first impressions overall. So let's start off by talking about the elephant in the room. It's obviously going to be the effects. Now, this was something which was very kind of shown off in the trailers. It was very kind of like everybody was like, oh, this is a completely new art direction. People either loved it or people either hated it. For those that hated it, they did kind of promise that you could turn the effects off entirely, and that's not exactly true. It's kind of misleading. It's not very good on their part, in all honesty. Yes, you can turn them down with a certain effect, which pretty much, majorly removes the kind of over-the-top stuff. Yeah, I'll kind of make a video on that separately. It's kind of the only way to get around it and not have it as in your face. But in all honesty, the effects themselves, in my opinion, are absolutely amazing. I was genuinely going into this thinking they're probably going to be far too over the top, to the point that they just get in the way of the actual gameplay. But the more I'm playing through this game, the more I'm kind of, really kind of starting to feel them, really starting to enjoy them. They're all kind of triggered at the correct times. It's pretty cool when you, nail a jump and you hit that boost and the effects are just popping off, or you're getting into a nice drift and you've got all this awesome looking, smoke effects. It really is, quite unique, and I feel like it's actually going to work in the favour of Need for Speed Unbound for years to come. Even in, say, 10 years' time, we'll probably all be commenting on, when you're kind of reminiscing on different games and such, and someone mentions Unbound, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's the one with them, kind of, I guess what people mainly say, like anime, comic book effects, whatever you want to call them, but the driving effects, and, people will remember it, and I feel like it really does work towards the game. Now, at first, when you're kind of just seeing it from an outside perspective, they do look a bit in your face, but honestly, once you get playing, they really do work with the game. It is very unique, to be honest, and I do not hate them. In fact, I probably actually really like them more than I expected to. I probably, like I said, was not massively looking forward to them. They felt a bit gimmicky, but since playing the game, I've realized that kind of the style and the whole way this game feels, it really does work in their favor. So the effects really aren't that bad, and it's something that you have to try for yourself before you make a proper judgment. And I see a lot of people that probably don't own the game and they're already kind of jumping down the throat saying it's absolutely ridiculous, they look stupid. But honestly, trying for yourself, you'll probably find it yourself like starting to like them over time, or even if you don't, you can kind of just tolerate them, or like I said, turn them down. The next thing I want to comment on is the kind of cutscenes and the character models and such. As you can see, they're very kind of, comic book style. They're, it's a mix of real world cars and very pretty graphics mixed with a, comic book anime aesthetic, whatever you really want to call it. It's completely up to you. But as you can see, it's Very, very unique. And again, I feel like it works in the favor of Unbound with the art style, the effects. When you kind of mix them all together, it's very, very unique for a racing game, and I actually really, really like it. For me, I was never a huge fan of the kind of more live action, I guess, cutscenes that we had in some of the previous Need for Speed games, mainly NFS 2015, as well as games like Grid Legends and such. I was never a fan of that art style. Even back in the days of Most Wanted, whilst it was pretty cool back then, I feel like it just isn't really for modern games. Maybe that's just me. That's, for me personally, I much prefer kind of in-game engine cutscenes rather than sort of pre-rendered real-world actors and such. It just feels a bit out of place when you kind of jump in the game and it doesn't really look as good, if you kind of know what I mean. It sort of drags you out of the immersion. I think kind of mixing them in with this kind of weird kind of comic book style really does look unique, and I genuinely really like the cutscenes. I think they're pretty awesome. The character creation and such with all the different outfits and stuff, really, really nice. I feel like you do see a lot more of your character in this game, so I actually don't mind the characters having customizations and stuff in this game. I really, really do enjoy it. So, we'll be moving on to, the car customization as well. But yeah, just in terms of the character models, the cutscenes and stuff, really, really like the art style. It really did grow on me. Again, it was another thing I was a bit wary of going into this game. But yeah, kind of, overall enjoying it, liking it. Maybe after a bit too much of seeing it, I'll probably get a bit fed up and it won't be as kind of unique. Who knows though? I'll do that in my, kind of final review once I've done absolutely everything in this game. Car customization, that's a big one. For me, Need for Speed is pretty much unmatched. There's nothing quite like it in terms of sort of, mainly covering the platforms I play on, which is like PlayStation, Xbox, sometimes PC, but I'm more of a simulator guy on PC. I don't really play car customization ones. Car X Drift and stuff like that, that's pretty cool. But in general, the customization for this game, and as this being one of the more recent racing games, absolutely phenomenal. Really cannot complain. Need for Speed's always been very, very good with its customization, especially the last few years. There's many different ways you can customize your car, many different kind of kits, but I feel like with Unbound it's been up a notch. Like, it is really, really impressive, especially if you're a fan like me of some of the kind of rendered vehicles you see all over like Instagram and social medias, where people sort of take old McLaren F1s and put some crazy body kit on. I believe they actually did work with someone that does all the renders. I believe it's Kaiser. I believe he did help them with this game. I know at some point, about over a year ago at this point, he did announce he was working on an upcoming title. I believe it would have been this one. Bear in mind, we've not had a Need for Speed since he announced that. So I'm going to assume he helped with some of the body kits. He's really actually good at his work. So, to see that kind of work in game with Need for Speed, it does allow you for some of the craziest looking machines I think I've ever seen in a racing game. It's absolutely ridiculous the different ways you can modify these, the different body kits there is. There's, the Pandem body kits, Liberty Walk body kits, big wide Bozazuku, I believe, body kits for some of the older cars. Like, it's absolutely insane. Car customization, Need for Speed, second to none, even better than ever in Need for Speed Unbound. And with the kind of art style and aesthetic kind of mixed in, it really does give your cars these kind of flashy, awesome looking vibes. Like, you feel like in this game you're not kind of held back by the sort of style of the game. Like, for me, sometimes the style of the game will make me kind of play pretty minimal customization sort of options on my car, whereas in this game I feel like I can go over the top. If I want to debumper my Mitsubishi Eclipse like you've seen here, I will do. If I want to add ridiculous diffusers and big wings and big wide arches, I will, because it fits the aesthetic style of the game. I feel like it mixes very, very well. Yes, you can keep subtle mods as well if that's more your thing. So there's a lot of kind of different ways you can go with it. If you want to go over the top, you can. If you want to kind of keep it minimal, you can. It's absolutely amazing. So gameplay wise, let's kind of talk about that, because there's been a lot of talk about brake to drift being horrible and all this. You can mix it up now. You can grip build cars. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. I still prefer brake to drift because it's an arcade racer. It just kind of, it's ingrained in my memory when I play Need for Speed these days, that brake to drift's kind of the way to go. You can mix it up, there's different options and stuff, but brake to drift is mainly the way I go, mainly because like I said, I've been doing it for so long in Need for Speed games that it's just kind of second nature. Grip build still doesn't feel quite perfect, but it's still very, very usable. If you want to make a grip build car in this game, you're free to do that. There's a lot more kind of, I guess, creative freedom as well as driving freedom in this game. The options are there to do different things with your builds. You want a grip build, you want a drift build, you can do it all. You know, even if you get a big American muscle car, you can make it into a big wide-bodied sort of classic IMSA racer with a ton of grip and a ton of power if you really want to. You know, there's a lot of creative freedom in this game in terms of the gameplay and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. So yes, gameplay wise, I cannot really compare it. It feels like its own thing. There's a lot more kind of weight to the cars. They're not as floaty. You feel like you have a lot more control over the cars when you're driving them, which is something that has been massively improved since the likes of, you know, the last one, Need for Speed Heat, where you sometimes just felt like the car was just going to go where it wanted to go. You feel like there's a lot more weight, a lot more controllability to the car. You can really push them in the way you want to push them without the car just kind of doing its own thing, which is brilliant. You know, in terms of the gameplay, it's probably the best it's been since the days of like Hot Pursuit 2010, Most Wanted, Carbon, Pro Street, those kind of days. You know, those games that I absolutely binged back when I was younger. You know, it's probably, in terms of its gameplay and overall, really, is as good as those games, you know, if not better in some aspects. You know, for a modern Need for Speed, this is everything I could have wanted gameplay wise, you know, in a modern Need for Speed. It's honestly fantastic. Criterion have shown their caliber, shown their pedigree. You know, don't get me wrong, it's not a realistic racing game. It's never meant to be. You see a lot of people kind of moaning about the physics and such. Look, Need for Speed's never really been that, you know, good in terms of its kind of, you know, simulating and being very, very good for its driving. It's never really been known for that. It's always been kind of known for its wacky customization, you know, decent, fast, fun racing. But in terms of, you know, its handling models and such, they've never been really too good, especially not recently anyway. You know, yes, this isn't going to blow your minds with physics and stuff. It's still an arcade racer at its heart, but it's still a massive improvement over anything we've had for a long, long time coming out of this series. So in terms of a first impressions from a racing game, this is honestly shaping up to be, you know, one of my favourite games of this year, and if not, one of my favourite games in terms of racing games for the last couple of years. You know, it's very, very good. It's very refreshing. It feels new. It just really is a pretty flawless game so far. You know, again, if you don't like Need for Speed, you know, it might not be your cup of tea. It's not going to be, you know, a massive game changer, but if you do like Need for Speed, trust me, it's not felt this good in a lot of years. If you've kind of been away from Need for Speed, I would say this is probably one of the best times to jump in all honesty. And even if you just like the look of the game, or you think you want to try it out, I'd fully recommend just jumping in and giving it a go. I honestly don't think that you'll regret it. You know, again, I was someone that was kind of, whilst I like the look of it, I was still on the fence. You know, I thought, you know, will it be a bit too over the top and a bit too gimmicky? And honestly, no, it really is a fantastic game. If I had to mention a few flaws, it'd probably be the police chasers. Whilst on the high difficulties, when there's, you know, the risk and reward factor in there of, you know, banking your money, which you're seeing in the background now, obviously, it's, you know, fantastic and really on edge and fun. Sometimes it just feels like it's a bit too easy to break away. You go to specific locations in the map, and I'm not going to really give them away because I feel like it kind of takes away from the experience. But if you do want to really cheap them out and just kind of go to either, you know, maybe a specific sewer tunnel or, you know, over certain big jumps, then you can quite easily break away from the hardest of police chasers. It's, you know, quite ridiculous at times. That is probably my only criticism. Whether this will get harder over time, I'm not quite sure. But overall, honestly, Need for Speed Unbound is a fantastic game. I'm really looking forward to, you know, diving deeper into it, making more videos on it, and just really enjoying this game. I feel like in terms of it being an enjoyable game, it's probably one of the better ones for the longest of times. So there we have it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on for daily racing uploads from me, whether it's Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, Forza in the future. I'll be covering them all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support recently, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.